Hello, everyone, and welcome to our brand new show from the franchise tag with your host, Makes a Change, me, Skypank, joined by our normal host, Freddie Hall, and our honorary man of all positivity, Adam Martin. So, Fred, I feel like we're in a particularly good mood today, considering that both our teams won. We won't obviously bring Adam down by talking about his Packers in last week, but it's nice for us to both be on after a win, isn't it?
I mean, it's after all the Falcons are doing go so well this year. Kirk Cousins is going to revolutionize the team. Carl Pitts is going to be the best tight end since Tony Gonzalez. It's just so nice, it's the Steelers, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields. What's going to happen with that? It's nice to see the Steelers roll into Atlanta and take the W. Not very often, but both of us turn up on this. We're mostly happy most of the time, but
I know. Well, Adam, as we said before we went live, the Patriots dynasty's back, so we won't dwell on the Packers one. Let's look forward to.
Was there a Packers one? I didn't realize that.
No, they've got some of the great quarterbacks of all time, but only one ring to show for each one. But I guess instead of trashing Adam and the Packers, because we do like Jordan Love and wish him all the best and a speedy recovery. So the outline of the show is to go through what I've picked as the top 3 games of the week, and then we'll preview Monday Night Football. So we'll dive straight in with the Texans v Colts. Obviously, it was a very, very good week 1 divisional battle with it, being CJ Stroud versus Anthony Richardson. Fred, I feel like it's only right to start with you, considering how much we love CJ Stroud. What did you like from the Texans offense, or the team in particular? But I'm thinking about the offense because Joe Mixon and Diggs, they both settled in really well. They had impressive debuts. Diggs had 2 touchdowns. Mixon had 159 rushing yards. So, yeah, what did you make of Houston?
You know when you have a Pokemon on the game and then you train them up and then it evolves and you're you had this Charizard.
I'm here for this.
Babyish, not really much, and then you get full on Charizard and you're like, whoa, this is dominant. This is what power feels like. That's how CJ Stroud must be feeling this morning with this offense. He must be like, wow, this feels pretty powerful. He picked up exactly where he left off. Exactly where he left off for the Texans, and they've upgraded. They have evolved, and they are looking so explosive. What I really loved about this game was they dominated the time of possession. They had 20 more minutes of possession compared to the Colts. And they dominated that run game as well. They looked really in control at all times. Stroud threw some absolutely beautiful balls to Collins, to Diggs. Nice to see him getting 2 touchdowns in the end for him. Mixon looks like he's come right in and seems to have settled in really well. It's weird with Joe Mixon because I feel like he's always been sort of that peripheral top 5 running back, but in the top 10 conversation. But he's a little bit like, we sort of spoke about it on WhatsApp over the weekend, didn't we? Like the Mike Evans thing. Like no one really goes on about him, and Mixon. No one really went on about Mixon at the Bengals, even when they were getting to the AFC Championship. Like no one really attributed the offense being great in Cincinnati because of Mixon. It was all Chase and Burrow, and it could be the same case here. It might be Stroud Diggs this year, or Stroud Collins, or Stroud Dell this year, and he might be a forgotten guy again. But I think he does need a bit more flowers, really, because he played really well. I mean, a big thing of this show is going to be we're all going to overreact. This is week 1. Yeah, exactly. So it is going to be a big overreaction. But this team just screams explosiveness, just so explosive, can beat you through the middle, over the top, underneath as well. They're going to be a really hard team to beat, I think, especially offensively. I think the defense is coming along well as well. Definitely need to tighten it up a little bit. I think we've seen this over every single game in week 1. There is tightening around every team that needs to happen. There is definitely cobwebs that need to be shrugged off by a lot of teams, even if they did, start in preseason. But yeah, really impressed to get Stroud for MVP.
I know, and you've set me up perfect for the perfect overreaction, because I wanted to ask Adam, is this the start of the CJ Stroud MVP tour? Because 24 for 32, essentially, we didn't catch them all, but they almost caught them all. And what did you think? Come on, it's possible though, right? Because this whole rookie narrative is now, you and Andrew said to me and Fred last year, it's not going to happen because he's a rookie. But if the Texans are just as good or better, which it looks like they will be, it's possible, right?
Yeah, of course. I think if he does really well, then why wouldn't he? I mean, I just think as we were saying, it's one of them things that you just don't give rookies. It's just how it works, sort of thing. So, but yeah, Stroud looked really good. Like Fred said, the offense looked like it had hadn't been away at all, just sort of clicked straight back into it. The game itself, I personally just felt like no matter what the Colts did, I always felt like Stroud and the Texans were going to pull it out. It just got they always felt like they had them at arm's length throughout the whole thing. Although it did get very close, and obviously he only finished by winning by 2 points. To me, it just felt like it was never going to be anything different other than that the Texans were gonna get it. Which, when you think they went away to a division rival, and that was kind of how we felt about it, that tells you quite a lot about the position that they're in and how much stronger I think they probably are than the other teams that are in that division. So yeah, I think, if they win that division well and get themselves a fairly decent seeding and, can go and win a playoff game, then he's definitely going to be within a shout of coming home with the MVP award.
I'll stay with you here, Adam, but just to touch on something Fred said at the beginning, like the time of possession, and also the Texans ran 33 more plays than the Colts. For me, it was weird because it was one of those games you watch on Red Zone and you go, "Oh, Anthony Richardson played great," and then you sort of watch the full tape, and Indy finished with 9 completions. I know he still helped them put up 27 points. They only lost by 2, but it was kind of weird from him, right? Because we saw 60-yard touchdown completion, 54-yard one, but in general, there was obviously, it was almost like when he didn't have to think, he made big plays, but then there was moments where he overthought it and didn't get the simple stuff done. So how would you assess him in his comeback from injury?
Yeah, Anthony Richardson's a strange one, isn't he? Because obviously it doesn't take many plays in order to be able to get a touchdown with his arm, and that seems to be how it works. It's very much like he's going to run with it or he's going to throw a bomb. They're kind of your options with him, and so I think because of that, it always feels like it's very much boom or bust, and that was kind of how I felt about him. Like he, the pass completion percentage was 47.4.
Yeah,
I mean that's a problem to say the least.
I mean,
but he will get the job done to a certain degree. But I think that's probably going to be their issue. It's almost like he can run the ball, and that's great. He can throw a bomb, and that's great. But sometimes you're going to end up coming up against that team, especially sort of like playoff time. You're going to come up against that team who's going to have a really good defense. And if they've got decent corners and a decent D-line, how do you've got to be able to maneuver the ball a little bit more than just throwing bombs and rushing yourself. So I think that's where the issue is going to be for him. He looked fit, so that was good. It looks like he's recovered from his injury and his shoulder looked fine. So that's good. So he always was someone that was about, he needs to play and he needs to get more practice in effectively whilst he's doing. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want him on my team. Let's put it that way.
But you would want him on your fantasy team?
I'd want him on my fantasy team.
Which I do have him in our league, so that's good. The reason. But no, like you said, I think weirdly everyone's compared him to Cam Newton, but it seems like more like Josh Allen intangibles. Like, when he first started, it was like the rawness would work well, but there's still some fine tuning that needs to be done. And I feel like Shane Steichen, someone who's competent of doing that, but it'll be interesting to see that develop. Fred, I'm gonna just talk about the division in general here, because you're AFC North. We mentioned your Steelers won. Obviously, the Browns got dismantled by the Cowboys, 33-17. No, it's only week 1, but Colts, do you see them essentially pushing the Texans the closest? And the reason I mentioned your division is because in our previews that us three did, we were like Browns, Steelers, Ravens. That division, there could be 3-4 teams that could come out of it. I feel like the Jags, they only lost 2017 to Miami, and they probably should have won that game. So on question 1 is, do you see the Colts pushing the Texans the closest? And question 2 is, could we have multiple teams from this division in the playoffs?
I think it's certainly possible. I think I sort of echo what Adam's saying with Richardson. It is a bit boom or bust, and hopefully we see a development from him. We do have to remember this is going to, pending, hopefully, if he stays fit all year, this will be his first full season. He has got a lot to learn. That might be why they don't push the Texans a bit to the limit. As I would see the Jags pushing the Texans more, just because of I think just because of experience, just because of the quarterback experience and the general team experience and coach experience as well. I mean, a little bit to add to sort of the Richardson and the Colts. I suppose I got in my notes. If the Colts have made two incredibly explosive plays, I don't think this looks as close as it is.
Yeah, exactly.
But I made sure to write this down because I knew and I'll get tongue twisters on this as well. You miss 100% of the opportunities you don't take. And that's true. Like Richardson will take them opportunities all year and has that capability to. And if they are successful, like they were in this game, they will push teams to the limit. The problem is there needs to be success doing that. I also think it's a little bit of a problem the stat line of Richardson rushing for 56 yards on 6 carries and Jonathan Taylor at 16 carries for 48 yards. That's a problem. I know Taylor is not the running back of 4 years ago when he was just so good, but if you're going to, I worry about this for people like Josh Allen at the Bills as well. When you're, he's now got James Cook, which them two had a perfect tandem this weekend. But that tandem's got to be right as well, because if you're going to rely on Richardson to do the bombs and also to lead your running game as well, that's a lot. That is a lot on a quarterback like that, and that will lead you onto one route, and that's an injury route, unfortunately. So I'm not convinced yet the Colts push them. I'm not convinced they sort of dip into where there's maybe 3 teams for this division that could potentially go through. But it's so early doors. It's so early doors. They've got a lot of learning to do. I still thought they looked great. I still think they were good. And I think if they can stay healthy, they're definitely a team that can have an eye towards the playoffs for sure.
Yeah, it's just cleaning things up. You mentioned that quote there about the missing 100. I've just got Michael Scott in my head, where it's got Wayne Gretzky on the board and Michael Scott quote underneath. If only we had visuals, we would have had that up. One thing that I didn't mention from this division was the Titans, and just to cover that one off, if you're a Titans fan watching this, I'm sorry that you blew a 17-point lead and gave Caleb Williams his first win with under 100 passing yards. But congrats to Caleb, and I still got a fantasy win with him as a starter. I think 2 wins, actually. So there we go. Cheers. Hopefully he does better against the Texans next Monday Night Football. We'll move on to the Bills game against the Cardinals. That was one of the other games that I picked out as one of the best games of the week. I know they were both at the 6 o'clock slot, but it was, a 34-28 win for Buffalo. Josh Allen had 232 passing yards, 71 on the ground on 19 carries. Fred, I know you're a big fan of Josh Allen. Given that the Bills were down in this game and they've come back to get that 6-point win, I feel like, I know it's only week 1 and we said about overreactions, but it felt like week 1 adversity, because if they'd lost this game, everyone would have spoke about Stephon Diggs has gone to the Texans. He's won. Buffalo, it's not really happening for them. What did you make of the Bills coming back in this game to win against a Cardinals team that probably did a lot better than a lot of people had said pre-kickoff?
I think anytime you have Josh Allen under center, you're in a game to win. You have got every potential in the world to win with that player. I think his saving grace is having James Cook now. Having James Cook as a runner, who what was his line in the end? 71 yards, 19 carries, 71 yards. Josh Allen had 9 carries, 39 yards. I mean, in 2 years ago, Josh Allen, maybe that would have been the other way round, really, in terms of like the carries and the yards as well. But anytime you have him under center, you are going to be in a game. So I was really impressed by that. But I do feel like there was a moment in time, and the people call it the Super Bowl window, but there was a moment in time when Bills dominated teams and really, really put the sort of foot on their throat when they were in front and wouldn't get themselves in the position where they were coming back from behind. They just really don't feel like they dominate anymore, which is going to be a problem for them because there's other teams that are looking to dominate in this AFC division, Texans being one of them, as we just spoke about. So I do worry for him. But James Cook's looking great. Keon Coleman had a good day out for his sort of debut. Well, his debut, and he has a really good opportunity to be the number one. And it's interesting that there is been a shift. There's a shift now, isn't there? They are now very run focused, this team with Cook and Allen, and they will beat teams on the ground now. And not having Diggs, it's not going to be a problem for them if that's how they're shifting, and that's how really why Diggs left the team, because that was the shift they were going with. I think Keon Coleman's going to be perfectly happy with doing that. The 2 tight end set's going to be more than happy with that with Knox and the other tight end that's
Kincaid,
McCade, Kincaid. Sorry, not Kincaid. that's going to work for them. I mean, Kincaid only had 11 yards on the day, only 1 catch. Dawson Knox 1 catch, 23 yards. I mean, no one had over six receptions on the day for the receiving team. So they're capable of winning a lot of ways. The Bills, I just worry against some of these big teams now. You know, they just don't have that dominance that they once did. So there'll be certainly there'll be more interesting AFC matchups for them going down the line. Obviously, Cardinals in the NFC, but when they're looking at later on in the season about qualifying and leading the division, it's certainly going to be maybe a bit open.
Yeah, you read my mind on James Cook because I have a stat, and Adam loves a stat from me. So he saw 79% of Buffalo's running back rushes yesterday, 19 carries. He's only seen fewer than 16 carries in a game twice since Joe Brady took over as offensive coordinator. And we all spoke on shows last year, Adam in particular, which we spoke about Joe Brady and the impact he had on that offense. So whilst we don't need to dive into it, it's obviously clearly important that James Cook does get the ball in his hands. So yeah, it was nice to see him make an impact. But Adam, let's stay with you talking about rookies, because Fred mentioned Keon Coleman. There was one big play down the sideline. I was watching Red Zone, and they spoke about preseason, obviously, him going up and just winning a 1v1 battle. He had 51 yards, whereas Marvin Harrison Jr., 1 catch and 4 yards. Even though I read that he ran 95% of routes on Arizona's passing play. So you know where I'm getting at with this. Summarize both of those rookies' performances.
Yeah, Marvin Harrison was the cardio king, wasn't he? Just running around everywhere and not getting the ball.
especially after what you've been saying all off season.
I know. The thing was, there was one. He was literally like this, like, hi, I'm over here. There's no one here. It's part of throwing the ball. Yeah, Marvin Harrison, not the problem. Maybe if the quarterback got his head up, that might help. He was too busy scampering over there the other way. That was the problem. So, yeah, I thought with Keon Coleman, I thought he looked decent. I thought he looked really good. He had a couple of plays. One, like you say, one was a 20-yard plus, sort of like down the sideline. I think that's what you're going to see from him. The issue for him is that he's probably not going to get much of the ball because of the way they play and the run game taking precedence. So that's the only real concern when it comes to him. I think he's going to be very good in the NFL. I just don't think he's going to be like top kind of guy because he's just not going to get the volume there. Marvin Harrison, they got to throw the ball to him. That might help. I thought, that's the issue. And it's difficult to assess that because there wasn't much to assess, to be honest. It's like if you're not going to throw the ball to him, then how is he supposed to do anything? And the one thing I would say is that it wasn't that he wasn't getting open. He was getting open, and that's kind of the only positive that you can come from it, is that he's not so much the problem. It's more that the quarterback has got to find him, and maybe that's just going to take time for that to develop. But yeah, I thought that he will be fine. I just, if your quarterback doesn't see you, what can you do, kind of thing.
I'm sure he was playing Taylor Swift. It's me, hi, I'm the problem, it's me. But pointing at Kyler Murray. It was weird for Kyler Murray because he didn't have a bad game. He found Greg Dortch quite often. There was Wilson as well. He got things done on the ground. And with Arizona pushing Buffalo all the way, it did surprise me. I feel like probably surprised all three of us. But we do have one person on the pod, Johnny Bisbee, who talked up the Cardinals. So do we see from either of you, both please feel free to answer, do you think they could be the Seattle of last year where they win enough close games to maybe make a wild card push for overreaction of the week? Go on, Fred.
For me, I think that the Cardinals put a very good showing on, but there was nothing that we haven't seen before from them.
Yeah.
When they are fit and healthy, they are very good at running the ball. And they can be very exciting and quite versatile on offense when Murray gets running and scampering around and trying to see above 6'5" people. And maybe that's it. Maybe they need shorter alignment, and then maybe Harrison would have seen the ball more. It's the same as it was. I think their offense could be really decent, and I worry for their defense. I think their defense is not great. It's not been great for a while. That's their problem. So I really. I did not jump on the train that Johnny Bisbee was driving, and I remain at the platform. Thank you. I have more belief in the Seattle Seahawks, even though they didn't have a fantastic day out. So yeah, Murray. It's always going to be exciting. It's going to be fun. It's sort of. It's so funny with him and Lamar in that. I know they're different builds, but it's sort of Murray came into the league with a better arm than Lamar and running capability, and Lamar has developed a better running capability, but it's also developed that decision making as well, and that capability. Whereas I don't think Kyler has, because he's just not been fit enough. But Lamar, I suppose, yeah, it's the same thing. He's not been fit enough as well. It's the same thing every year with this team. Like I said, when they're fit, they look capable, but I just can't trust it.
Adam, before you go, just with the Cardinals, guess if you're a Cardinals fan, they've only won 4 games in both the last 2 seasons. So if they get to 5, that's an improvement. Surely that's going to happen.
I think they will. I think they'll get. They'll improve. I think they are. But I have to say, and this is something that I brought up on the betting show on Saturday when we did it. They are going to be a team that you want to target all season long. They are going to score lots of points and they are going to give up lots of points. And so they're a team that are going to be very exciting to watch. But when it actually comes to winning games, I think it's going to be, I don't know. I mean, I think I'd be very surprised if they hit 500, to be honest. I think if they can go 7, 8, I think that's a good season for them.
We'll move on from them. If my maths is correct, I think there's 6 games just in general that haven't been mentioned. Obviously, we will move on to the Rams v Lions, which was a great Sunday night football game. But I'd like to get both of your opinions on various matchups very quickly. We'll start with one that I just have to mention. It was the Giants losing 28-6 to the Vikings. Adam, what did you think of Daniel Jones and how poor he was? 22 of 42. Completions, less than 200 passing yards, and 2 picks. Go.
Yeah, it wasn't great, was it? It wasn't great.
Would you have booed if he was your quarterback? Would you?
No, I'm not a booer. I never have been a booer on my team. Sorry.
I reckon I've seen you on Crawley Terraces giving a few yeses and a few boos. Couple of
not a booer. Yeah. So
right?
Yeah. The thing is, and this isn't just Daniel Jones. I literally didn't see anything to be positive about at all. And that's probably more of a bigger concern, really. It was like the defense was poor, very poor. And a lot of people have come out and gone, oh, Sam Darnold, he got all these, his stat line was good and that he got, he was decent and he's not seeing ghosts anymore. Thank God for that. And
It's
all
not
of
November
that.
Yet, or October, sorry.
And
he could just see the ghost of Eli Manning knocking about.
And I was just like, yeah, but Justin Jefferson literally had no one around him. Like he would catch the ball and he was completely free, like yards either side, no one around. And I just kind of felt like that's a big problem. Because the Vikings, although they looked okay, are not a team that are expected to do that much this year. And even if they do have a positive year, it kind of feels like that's the sort of team when you're at home, you should be doing something against that kind of team. So that's a real concern for them. And I mean, I think that the issue with Daniel Jones, and I feel like this is fairly, like we all kind of know this now, and that even the Giants hierarchy know it. We're just waiting for the contract to reach a point where it's nice enough for them to get rid of him and they can go and get themselves another quarterback. And, if they carry on down this route, they'll be getting the best one in the draft. So, this is kind of, I think it's just an obvious take now with that.
Yeah, and with Sam Darnold, Fred, I just have to quickly ask you. Yeah, I know it was against the Giants, but considering Jordan Love's out for a few weeks, Vikings, wildcard spot, if everyone's healthy. I'm trying to say it with conviction. I mean,
they
sorry,
lost a lot. They lost
yeah.
a lot of good pieces in the offseason. They lost.
Yeah.
Daniil Hunter is one that is seriously underrated for them, but they lost. I just it's the same sort of thing with Russell Wilson and the Steelers. I just can't trust. I want it. I'd love it. You know, my partner's a Vikings fan, so I'm always interested in how the Vikings do, and I love Justin Jefferson as well. I just can't see it. I just can't trust it just yet.
Yeah. And then I got to ask you about another quarterback that you love, my mate Baker Mayfield. Don't know why I picked against him, because 4 touchdowns, 0 picks, 289 passing yards. The Browns fans last night must have been crying watching Watson and then seeing Mayfield do that, especially against, look, I know Commanders' defense is not amazing, but you know Dan Quinn's a competent defensive mind, right? They've still got pieces where they can make an impact, and he just tore them up. So my question is, did he have the QB performance of the week, Fred? Or maybe top 3?
You know the disdain I have for Baker Mayfield. But I think, yeah, I think he has to be in that conversation this week for best quarterback of the week, at least. I mean, you got to remember, he is coming up against Washington. Washington have not been that great. I mean, they've had all right defense, but he did. He cut it up, man. And I mean, it's funny because I've said it a couple of times now on this episode. Is you know, Mike Evans. Mike Evans is a fantastic receiver. Chris Godwin, fantastic receiver. They've got good third guys. They've got a decent running back in White as well. He didn't do anything wrong. The O-line's pretty good as well. They had that really strong O-line when they went to the Super Bowl, and a lot of them guys moved on or were too old, and they did really well with people like Cody Mork to replenish that. I mean, do I see make a deep playoff run? I don't, unfortunately. Again, I think they lost a lot of pieces on defense. But yeah, he's got to be in that conversation. He's got to be up there. As much as that pains me.
There's another player who, obviously not QB of the week because they lost, but I wanted to ask Adam about Jaden Daniels, because he completed 17 of 24 passes, 88 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. I know they lost, but what did you like about his debut?
I thought he did really well. And also, the one thing I would say is, from what I did see of the game at the very beginning of it, I felt like they were not using him much. There was a lot of pass-offs to Brian Robinson, and it was almost like, well, I mean, not even that. I kind of felt like it was just very run heavy, and they were a little bit worried about using him. And I think because of that, the game was gone before they started using him, how I remember seeing him playing for LSU. So I think that was a bit of a worry, but he did sort of get into it in the second half. He was a lot better. I mean, you could argue a lot of it's like garbage time and stuff like that, but it was still a competent performance. He put up 184 yards. I mean, it's not anything flashy, but then, you know, I mean, like, isn't Brock Purdy like the king of 200 yards and 2 touchdowns? I mean, like, that's and everyone says that's good. So, I mean, he's more than capable. He rushed in 2 touchdowns as well, which I think that's how he's going to do that a lot this year. And it's kind of just a matter of making sure they don't overdo that. The last thing they want to do is go down an Anthony Richardson way and end up with him getting injured and stuff like that. So that's the last thing that they want to do. But he was a pretty, you know, the completions that he made, he was pretty accurate. He was pretty high in the pass completion rate, and he looked good. And a lot of people don't think that about him, but even in college he looked really good for that. So yeah, I think he looked good. I think it's very promising for him. I just don't know if he's going to have I mean, Terry McLaurin's going to be good for him. Obviously, the running backs are good to check down for him.
Is it Zach Ertz, the tight end? Who's the tight end?
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to go get a guy this week in fantasy to pick up, I would probably pick up him, because he is definitely going to be the safety net.
He's going to be reliable for them, and it's literally the only downside with Ertz is literally catch it and fall down. That's the only problem with Zach Ertz. But it's like he's going to be great for him, because he's going to be an old head who knows exactly where to place himself to get the catch and stuff like that. So yeah, he's just got to rely on people like that.
Well, we'll talk about, obviously, we'll move on to the Rams and Lions just to cover off some other storylines. The Chargers beat the Raiders 22-10. They did exactly what Adam said, if anyone's listened before. J.K. Dobbins, 135 rushing yards. Gus Edwards chipped in. They did what I was saying on the previews when we spoke about Jesse Minter's scheme working. So that was good to see. Obviously, Seattle, they won 26-20 against the Denver Broncos. I don't think we need to dive into Bo Nix's debut unless any of you disagree with what I'm about to say, but 42 pass attempts, only 138 yards, 2 picks. I don't think it was necessarily awful, but it wasn't great. It was more a lot of those pass attempts because they don't have any playmakers and they were playing from behind. I think my biggest concern coming out of that game, and feel free if anyone wants to answer this, but everyone spoke in the offseason about Jackson Smith and Jigba breakout season. Again, this is an overreaction, but 2 catches for 19 yards is not great for especially when we spoke about Tyler Lockett maybe dropping off. I know they used Kenneth Walker a lot. Charbonnet got a touchdown, but can either of you just fill me with some hope that Smith and Jigba's going to do something this season? Because I've got him in one of my redraft leagues.
Have you got any hope, Fred?
It was concerning, or am I just overreacting?
The thing is, like it's so funny because I drafted Tyler Lockett in one of our leagues, and I always am really. I'm always really cautious with Tyler Lockett because I'm always like, this is the year that he
someone else comes in as well. Yeah,
but he always, but it's never the year. It always feels like, and of course, DK Metcalf's going to be number 1 there. I just don't know. It's just they're not an exciting offense, are they? At the best of times, but they did some exciting bits in this game. But yeah, it's a weird thing. They're not a team built for having 3 wide receivers in a way. They like to run the ball and keep the ball on the ground. Kenneth Walker.
Yeah.
It's like if you, it's so when we talk about, you say about Baker, if he was at the Buccaneers with, they're a team that would use that sort of
spread
set.
the receivers
and
out.
They spread the receivers out. That's what they do. They do it like people like if I can't. I'm thinking it's Trey Palmer, but I can't remember if Trey Palmer's the right one. If he's
Trey Palmer and even McMillan had his debut.
Yeah. They seem to be doing that. They seem to diversify their offense and the receivers a lot. It's just that doesn't happen in Seattle. So I'm hoping you get a bit more of a breakout, but I wouldn't hold my breath too much on that. They have a game plan, and that's running the ball.
Adam, I've got a burning question before we actually do move on to this Rams v Lions game. The Panthers. Are they going to go 0-17?
Oh my God!
It was awful, wasn't it?
Sorry to interrupt you, Andy, I actually have Red Zone in the background. Had the Steelers because I don't have the zone on there, and I have Sky on my iPad. So I watched the Steelers game, and then when it's paused, I mute that, put that on, then do it the way around. And I could every time I looked up from my iPad and looked at the TV from the Steelers game, it was the Saints either intercepting, sacking, getting another TD. It was so woeful by the Panthers. They are. I mean, Bryce Young just does not look it. But then I don't think it's just him. It's a little bit like Adam said with the Giants and DJ. Like this looks like a team thing. It looks like a whole team thing. Yeah.
But for a young guy, it's not good for his confidence. I know I joked about 0-17, but if it's another season of being this bad.
I mean, Xavier Leggette's probably want to get his country ass right on out of there and get himself somewhere else because, it feels like it's going to be a long year for Carolina. Sorry, Adam, I just had to say because it just felt like every time I looked up, it was Saints again.
Yeah, I mean, I've already used my "it wasn't great" line. I mean, it's really bad, and the only positive I can come with is that Dave Canales coming over. He got Baker going and did well with him. He got Geno going and did well with him. I think given a bit of time, he will probably get Bryce Young playing a little bit better. But yeah, the whole team in general needs kind of I think it's just going to take them time. It's going to be difficult for them because they have, they didn't have the draft capital. They were the worst ones and then didn't have the draft capital to improve it that much. So it's going to take time. But it's a long sort of redo, I think, for the Panthers at the moment.
They've also just lost Derek Brown for the season.
Yes, yeah.
Such a kick. Such a kick that is for them. I mean, talk about, look, getting worse. Absolutely dominated by a not great Saints team and then lose, arguably one of your star players. Well, arguably your star player on defense.
It's bad when Derek Carr's pointing at one of, I can't remember which DB or safety it was, with the 3, like he had 3 touchdowns on him. So, not good for the Panthers. But a team that's used to getting great draft capital, but now they are the real deal. The Detroit Lions, they won last night. which only bugged me as much as, I think the Lions have become, as much as it pains Adam, me and Fred have said before, maybe a lot of people's second team. People are happy to see them do well. But I picked the Rams to win, and it did feel like, I don't know how they stayed in this game, given that Puka Nakua was injured, multiple injuries on the O-line, but Sean McVay couldn't beat his old quarterback again. Fred, like I said, you love the Lions. What did you make of the win? I enjoyed the game. I said to Adam, I went to bed at halftime and I watched the rest this morning, so it's fresher in my brain, but I thought it was a good game for the neutral and arguably a modern rivalry too.
If atmospheres could translate into touchdowns, the Lions would have won this game about 60-26. Like, that atmosphere was electric. Like, if that is what teams have to go to in Detroit every week, they could go undefeated at home. Like, honestly, and that's not. I don't think that's an overreaction, to be honest with you. They go undefeated. Goff inside as well. I know Adam loves the stat of Goff being inside and how dominant he is with the roof on. This team it's back to business for them. It is back to business. It is going to be a tough place to go. There is still things to iron out, like we said. And I think, again, the cobwebs thing, they did a lot of work to try and get that secondary and that defense better this offseason, and it didn't exactly translate in this game. But again, like you sort of said, Sky, it's sort of like a modern day rivalry because of the quarterback trade and everything like that. So I think if the Lions had shut the Rams out and dominated the game, I know obviously it wouldn't have been as fun for the fan, but it wouldn't have been as fun. It honestly wouldn't, because it is really cool seeing these two quarterbacks and these two teams come up against each other and it getting close and going down to the wire because of that rivalry now with the Goff Stafford thing. And it's going to be a tough. They're the exact same as they are last year. I just hope that their secondary just click a little bit more. But like I said, I think even the Texans got blown over the top by there was that big one to Alec Pierce, but Derek Stingley just completely messed up. Stingley's a top corner. He covers them. Week 5, he's there. Like, it's the same thing for this team. Terry and Arnold, still a rookie. Drafted this year by the Lions. He's going to be learning. And that safety, there's Brian Branch, is obviously incredible as well. It's just getting some cobwebs off. But yeah, I don't think it's not stupid to say this is an NFC Championship team if they play this well all year.
Yeah, and you've literally took the words out of my mouth, because I was going to say to Adam, I think I kind of forgot how good their O-line is. And I think now it's probably the best in the entire league. Good. I think with Jason Kelce retiring, I think they've obviously the Eagles one's still great, top 3. But I think the Lions now, if they stay healthy, that O-line, when you've got Montgomery, Gibbs, do you think that's the key to the Lions going further?
Yeah, I think it helps. I mean, it's great for them, isn't it, to have it, because it brings in the run game, which then brings in the passing game. So yeah, it's exactly what they need. But I think it was strange. You kind of, Gibbs wasn't really used that much in this game. Amon-Ra St. Brown wasn't really used that much in this game. It was a peculiar, a bit of a strange. Montgomery had 17 carries, Gibbs had 11. That's a bit of a surprise. That it kind of almost felt like their main stars on the offense from last year weren't really used that much, and all of a sudden Jameson Williams suddenly turned up, which is something that I think everyone's been waiting for a little while, and not overly surprising. Was amazing for Alabama. It just hasn't really worked for him for different reasons, and now that sort of speed as well, to have that there, it's just another weapon that they've got, and so you sort of think to yourself, it's going to be incredibly difficult to beat this team. Like you say, as they're playing the way that they're playing, if they do this all season, they're going to be very, very tough. 14 of their 17 games are indoors. That's ideal for Goff. He's going to, he will do well because of that. And I just sort of think that it's just, they're going to be incredibly tough to beat. And I don't, yes, the defense, there are still a few issues there, but as Fred said, with a lot of teams this week, there's been a lot of that, and that's something that in, say, like 5 or 6 weeks' time, I think you'll find will be pretty ironed out, and all of a sudden, if you've got a team that is going to be difficult to score against and they've got this offense as well, it makes it incredibly difficult to be able to beat them. And I think that most teams' best bets is going to be to just really be tight on the defense and just try and slow them down in that way. But I mean, it's just going to be very difficult.
Yeah, I think you nailed it there. You need to go press coverage. I think if it's zone, Jared Goff's picking people off. There were a few shaky moments last night. I do wonder what Matthew Stafford thinks. Like, obviously, I know he went and got his one ring, but for me, he was the better quarterback last night. When you, like I mentioned, he let 317 yards, 34-49. There were so many plays where you could see like guys who just weren't ready to even be playing last night on the O-line. He was having to move in the pocket and just get things done. I feel like, just simply to ask both of you, if the Rams can get healthy, surely these two teams are going to meet again in the playoffs. It feels like it's a possibility. But
they should have the potential to get there. Obviously, the Rams, it's concerning about the O-line. Like you say, they lost a few guys. I think Steve Aviva is going to be huge that they've lost. Obviously, I don't know if it's been announced what, like, Puka and what's going on with that. I know they're testing him today, but that's it. A knee injury, they seem to think, which he had during the off season as well. So that is a massive player to lose there. They've got DeMarcus Robinson, who, although he's not Puka, has shown that he is capable. So that's something for them. And I thought Colby Parkinson had a good game for them, actually.
I told you, sexy Colby Parkinson. Remember I said?
There you go. So I thought he looked all right. It's relying a lot on Cooper Kupp, isn't it? That's going to be the only issue, and it's about whether or not he can sort of like maintain the workload. But yeah, it wouldn't be shocking at all if you saw these two in the playoffs.
And then just to sort of, Fred, of both of you, it was weird to not see Blake Corum play. We'll talk about college football before he came on live. I know he was on kick returns, but I feel like, I know it's only week one, but this reminds me of, Fred again mentioned James Cook at the beginning. We were talking about the Bills, and I said about his slow integration in his rookie season. I feel like as much as McVay loves a change at running back, that sort of implied that Kyron's the guy and they're going to slowly integrate Blake Corum. But I don't think I expected that, and maybe thought he would get some attempts last night. But did that surprise either of you?
I thought they would try and split.
Everyone's been talking about it, right?
Just because McVay history, he uses his rookies straight away. Look at Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp players. They were used straight away within the offenses. So yeah, I was a little bit surprised. Maybe he's carrying a knock. I know he was doing the punt returns, but the kick returns, but maybe he just doesn't seem fully healthy. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they're just not seeing something with him. But I don't know. Kyren Williams is a very good running back, a very, very good running back. So it'll be interesting to see how they play out this season. Injuries happen potentially, so so hopefully not. But we may.
I've not got him in my dynasty league with you guys.
Well, what I'm saying is, I hope for him to get opportunity, but hopefully it's not for injury. It's through talent on its own.
Yeah,
is what I'm trying to say.
Adam, do you see a slow embedding of Blake Corum as well? Because it is, like Fred nailed it, all off season we've heard, now Kyron. I think McVay was playing games. I said this to you off air a while ago. Like, he was keeping the element of surprise, and now everyone's sort of like, I've seen he's been getting dropped in loads of redraft leagues. Everyone's sort of gone overreaction. Oh my God, Blake Corum's not going to get any time.
So I think he was injured. He didn't do any kick returns. Jordan Whittington did. So.
Oh, did he? I thought it was him.
I thought he had like 2 catches.
Apparently not. Well. According to the box score, he wasn't involved as kick returns, and obviously Kyron did punt returns. I think he probably will get involved at some stage. It's just that if it's either an injury or he's just not fancied it. But I would have thought it's probably more that he's got a knock or something. And I think we saw, didn't we, for him at Michigan, how good he is. So I think he will get involved at some stage. It's just that it's not at the moment.
We'll move on to tonight's exciting game. I didn't say that with much excitement, but I am excited. The Jets v 49ers. Well, first things first, will either of you be staying up? I'm going to try, but I'll probably only make it to half time. What's the plan?
No.
You don't want to watch your old mate Rodgers? Well, hopefully he wears more than 4 plays this season. Fred?
I can't think of anything worse than watching that.
No, at this day and age, no, this guy does not stay up for any games anymore. Not even Steelers games are he stay up for. I have to be at work 8 a.m. I have to be up at 6 in the morning.
It's a big game, though. Like, this is two.
It's not a big game for me, though. Like, it's not like I don't overly care. Like, bother me. I'll go to a dark retreat like Aaron Rodgers says instead. I'll do that. It's close. It's called going to sleep, Aaron. That's what it's called.
I think we speak about Aaron Rodgers, obviously his return to area where he grew up, fan of the 49ers. But I think interesting storyline is Shanahan and Robert Saleh. Obviously, they go back to young coaching days on the Texans. These guys know each other well. I think it's a fascinating matchup between, maybe stating the obvious, the 49ers offense and the Jets defense. But it's just going to be, I guess, first things first is, if Aaron Rodgers is healthy tonight, do the Jets have a chance of winning this game? Because I feel like they've got the defense to contend, right? And can they cause... Look, the Niners have solved their problems in terms of Brandon Ayuk's contract's done. They've got Deebo Samuel. We know Brock Purdy is some people's pick for a potential MVP run. But the Jets defense could potentially cause an upset tonight. I've picked them. Do you guys think it's possible? Adam's face there when I said I picked the Jets. It's week 1, Adam.
Yeah, that surprised me. Yes, their defense is very good. You got to think that they're going to be better than what they were offensively, as long as Rodgers stays fit. I think the 49ers will be too strong for him.
This is arguably, at the end of the season, you could look back at this and say this is the best offense of this season, the best defense of this season.
Yeah,
against each other. That could feasibly be a storyline at the end of this season. I honestly think that, because this defense is no joke for the Jets. It is really, really good, and pending health and everything like that. Salah is such an astute defensive coach that that could seriously be a narrative by the end of the year. And the 49ers, we know what they can do on their offense. They're so powerful. I mean, the only well, I say this, but the only knock is maybe McCaffrey is not quite healthy yet. But I am so positive that happened last year, and he ripped off for like 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. I'm positive that happened last year in a game, whether it be the first or like the second game. It was like questionable all week. Oh, it might be a game-time decision. He played, and he was just phenomenal. So, it doesn't really matter what version of CMC turns up. He's going to be a good version. There's no bad version of CMC, is there?
Yeah.
And then, Deebo, Ayuk. Obviously, it's a shame that Ricky Pearsall's not going to play. That would have been really great to see him on the field. But obviously, he'll be back later on in the season, thankfully. Kittle as well. Yeah, this could be a real fireworks game if it wasn't week 1. That's my issue. I think it's just a little bit like cobwebs being blown off. Rodgers hasn't played football now in a hot minute, over a year and a bit. Like, it's over a year, and it's so if it weren't week 1, I'd maybe feel a little bit more like this could be a closer game. But I just 49ers is just so good, man.
Adam, I've got a stat for you. Whichever ding 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 Sky stat alert. You ready?
Never, but please carry on.
First time since the 1970 merger that a team that led the NFL in offensive yards per play faces a team that led the league in fewest yards allowed per play. From the prior season, in the opening week, I've given you a proper American type stat there. Like, in the cold, 30 degrees, when, I don't know, Iceland are playing Finland, this guy threw 350 yards. But
I think in this show you should bring like 4 good facts like that, but one of the 4's not real, and we have to guess at the end which was the fake fact of the show. That would be a really good segment.
But the point of we'll do that. The point of that was to literally just hone in. I thought you were going to say what exactly was.
Well, now my point about the best offense, best defense.
That's what I mean.
It's definitely feasible.
And I was hoping you'd say that, because I had that there ready, and I think that is literally what it's going to be. But obviously, we know it's in a few hours, so we won't deep dive into it. But just to your picks for the game, it sounded like Fred, you were going Niners. Adam, what about you?
49ers.
And for first touchdown scorer for anyone, we'll give you a betting moment.
I probably wouldn't.
So you wouldn't?
I wouldn't bet on it. I wouldn't get involved in this game at all. I think it's going to be just. I think it's going to be a lot of defense in this game. It's not that exciting. They're all fit.
Do you see it being low scoring then? Do you see it being
yeah,
like a
yeah.
2017?
The over under is 43. I think
Okay.
you could get the under in this. I don't think it's going to be a particularly exciting game. As Fred said, you've got a lot of, with Rodgers being a bit rusty. I don't see loads of points from the Jets. I don't see the 49ers scoring loads of points on that Jets defense. It's not. I don't know why they thought it was a good game for Monday Night Football, other than Rodgers going back to San Francisco. That's kind of the only narrative for me.
It's going to be mega cool the moment he steps onto the field. Right? But he is going to be as under the microscope as someone like Caleb Williams is this weekend. So it's going to be interesting to see how he deals with that, because he's obviously someone who adores being in the media. No matter what he thinks, he does adore being in the page in the media. So it's going to be really fascinating if they lose, in what manner they lose. If they do lose, if the manner they lose, it will see how his reaction is after the game. That'll be really interesting.
I'm glad we covered this game off, because I feel like you just, whatever happens in this game, there's going to be an overreaction of some sort. Jets win, Super Bowl. Yeah. Bloody the Niners blow them out. Oh, the Niners are unstoppable. It's that there's so many narratives to this. It'll
be Niners can go undefeated this year.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it'll be. Yeah.
There'll be so much. Rodgers goes down after 4 plays. Obviously, you don't wish injury on anyone, but it happens again. Then everyone's going to be checking out the local retreats. Everyone's going to be booking their early winter vacations.
Especially in New Jersey. There's going to be no NFL fans left in New Jersey after the Giants and if the Jets do terrible. If Rodgers gets hurt again and the football's cancelled in New Jersey if that happens.
If you're a Jets fan watching this and that does happen, then just watch The Sopranos again. That's my advice for you. That will cheer you up. And that's a perfect note to end on. Thank you both for joining. It was great, obviously, to do this recap, and we'll see everyone next Monday. Please check out the chat show tomorrow, Freddie, with his usual Tuesday segment. So we're going over some of the top storylines from the league. And please check us out on all socials at the moment, because there's plenty of content coming out, and we'll see you soon.